Hey everybody, it's Justin Miller. I'm back again with my next neighbor. This is Luke Francis, and we're excited to welcome him back to the neighborhood. Luke, tell us about where you just are coming home from.
I am coming home from the Uganda Kampala Mission, which encompasses the countries of Uganda, Rwanda, and Ethiopia.
That's really fascinating. Which countries did you actually get to serve in?
I served for 4.5 months in Uganda and over a year in Ethiopia.
So altogether, were you out about 16 months?
Yeah, 16 almost to like 18-ish months.
Almost 18. So
hmm
I was thinking it's been about over a year, so that's good memory.
Yeah.
So 4 months in Uganda and a yearish or so in Ethiopia.
Yes,
And did you teach English in both places?
I
Or
did.
did you
Yeah,
teach
although,
English language is what I meant.
yeah, in Uganda I taught in the English language, and in Ethiopia, I taught in English. However, we did work with a lot of translators, and I only learned like enough of Mark to get through like a couple little like things throughout the day. But in general, yes, I taught in English.
Okay. And do they have missionaries in Rwanda and you just didn't get a turn, or are there no missionaries in?
No, they had some in Rwanda. I just didn't really. I didn't get sent there.
Didn't get sent there. So
No.
tell us about the difference between, like, what's it like in Ethiopia and what's it like in Uganda?
It's actually very interesting. In the mission, what they say is that when you get sent to Ethiopia, it's kind of like restarting your mission. And really, I couldn't put it any better than that. It's just such a different place. It's different food, different culture, different, people in almost every way. It's very, very interesting to see just how like different Ethiopia is from almost everywhere else. Um, they have a very big, vibrant culture that they hold on to very, very tightly. Um, their culture is very, very religious. So missionary work has been described as tough. I wouldn't describe it as harder than pretty much anywhere else because that's a lot of places. But I guess some people have described it as more difficult because of the religious culture that they have. But um, it's a very, very interesting place in terms of that and how different it is.
How big is the population of Ethiopia?
Last I checked, it was around 100 million, from if I remember correctly.
Oh, so there's lots and lots of people.
Yeah, there's lots of people, and I think around 2 million, maybe I think or more, are mainly situated in the main city of Addis Ababa, and I served there for most of my time.
Okay. And then you said they're very religious. What's sort of the breakdown of the religious?
So really there's two or three like main ones. The number one is the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. That is the, number one biggest church in Ethiopia is the Orthodox Church. The other one I think is Islam. There's a lot of Islamic people there, Muslims. And then there's a very high concentration of Protestant people as well. Um, I've heard that there's a big amount of Jehovah Witness as well, although I didn't see them as often as I did those other three.
Hmm.
But I would say that number one is the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
How did you mostly find people to teach?
So it kind of changed with which areas that I served in. My first area, mainly we would do a lot of street contacting. My first area was in Megananya in Addis Ababa. Megananya is the main, central area of the city where everybody meets. Like the word Megananya literally means like the place where people meet.
Hmm.
So there, like the main way to do it was to fill out pass along cards with your phone number and to street contact with those. To pass out cards, you talk to people, you explain where the church is. There were a lot of walk-ins to the church because the compound was really nice there. So they would just, sometimes you get people just walking in. But mainly it was street contacting there. My second area, which was kind of outside the main city of Addis, it was still like a pretty big city, but it was outside the main one, was called Debrecen. There you also street contact. A big way of finding in Ethiopia is a lot of street contacting. You just go out and you just talk to people on the street and you give them a card with your number, and they're usually pretty good at calling you back. It was only my third and last area in Ethiopia, Awassa, which was very different. There, you're just always walking around and just doing a lot of random stuff, and you just kind of talk to people whenever you do anything. Usually they're usually pretty good at just coming. Like, you can go and play a game of pool with somebody, and you can contact them that way, or you can just street contact as well there. Lots of different ways to do that, but I would say that's the main thing.
Did you find that one of the messages that you shared worked better than another? Like, did they like the idea of families or prophets, or like, what was the message that seemed to resonate the most?
So the Book of Mormon was really interesting to them. One thing that they, said a lot, sometimes it was annoying, other times it wasn't. They would say like Ethiopia's had Christianity for thousands of years before anybody else. What do we have that could, be different? And when you share the Book of Mormon, it's something that they have never heard before, because they've had the Bible. They have many different, versions of the Bible, but they never heard of the Book of Mormon at all. And so when you share about what that is, like, very many times they get interested as to, what it has to offer them and how it supports the Bible. That's important, is you have to tell them that it supports the Bible. Because if they think that it's against the Bible, then they won't read it. And some people have responded very positively to the Book of Mormon and its message, and others have responded very negatively about additional scripture. But usually that was the lesson that I personally like to share with first, usually, just to get them interested in something different.
That's a good thought. And, I haven't thought about it like this before, but really that's the thing for all of us. For us to understand and accept additional scripture, it's got to be in alignment with what is widely accepted, the Bible.
Yeah.
So that's a good thought. Can you tell us about some of the families or people that you got really close to while you were on your mission?
So I think there was a couple people that I really, really liked, that's worth mentioning. One was he was in the district presidency. His name was Burhani Belai, and by far the most humble man I've ever met in my entire life. Like, this guy was incredible. Just super, super spiritual guy. Just had a love for everyone and everything. Just, I won't forget that guy easily. He was an amazing, amazing man. And the other one that really stuck out to me was one of my RCs that I had named, I think it was, sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now. Tesfaye, that was it. His name was Captain Tesfaye. He was a ex-husband of a member, and he had been coming to church for a bit, and nobody had really talked to him. I was working with him for quite a few months, and it was really interesting because I got to see like a big change in him, and it was really, really cool to see his change and his incredible activity in the church, and his love for the gospel just grow really fast like that. So for him, I think those two were the main ones that I remember.
Nice. So
Yeah.
in telling about him, you bring up the question, how did the people in Ethiopia accept the church? Like, did the church grow steadily or fast, or did they,
hmm
were people getting
So
baptized? Like, what was it like?
I see. So the church in Ethiopia, it was, I don't know, it was kind of growing very, very slowly is the thing. In fact, we had Elder Satati of the 70 actually come a while ago while I was there, and they were asking us questions kind of what were some of the problems in Ethiopia, because they said that everywhere in Africa was exploding with the gospel except Ethiopia. And so they wanted our opinion as to what the church could do better to make the church grow. And that's when we explained to them a bit about, for one, there's the culture that's very, very set religiously on the Orthodox Church and others. So it's a little hard to do that. That we only speak English and we weren't trained in a mark at all. And a lot of other things that, I don't know, kind of made it so the church was growing pretty slow. Usually, I think the biggest problem was that it was part of the Uganda Kampala Mission. And so because of that, there was still under one mission president. And because the mission president just lived, so far away in Uganda, it was hard for him to come and solve a lot of the problems that were happening, which there were a lot, and there is a lot with, church leadership and auxiliaries trainings and many other things like that need a mission president and a strong priesthood leader to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And the church was solving that with the creation of the Addis Ababa Ethiopia mission. But I don't know how that'll work with the evacuation now. But pretty much in general, it was kind of growing pretty slowly, but it was growing. And it was speeding up while the mission was coming.
So is the Ethiopia mission set to start like in July when new mission presidents come or something?
Yes, yeah. It was supposed to start July 1st. Our mission president was supposed to be Elder Dutfield from Australia. And there were some missionaries in the Ethiopia zone that I was in that were set to stay there and some to go. For me, I was supposed to leave and go back to Uganda for the remainder until they evacuated us from Ethiopia. But yeah, it's supposed to begin on July, and they were supposed to start doing a lot of different changes with that.
So were there some local missionaries left over, or did all the missionaries get evacuated?
All the missionaries got evacuated.
So there's nobody left?
Nope. There weren't any local missionaries, really. There were branch missionaries, but there were no Ethiopians called to Ethiopia. So it was mainly Americans and 2 Ugandans. The two Ugandans, they might still be there. I don't really know what happened to them. I haven't really inquired to that yet. But besides those 2, all the other American missionaries all were evacuated.
And was your evacuation kind of fast and crazy, or tell us about having to evacuate?
Yeah, so during the evacuation, we were kind of like hearing news of this kind of stuff happening, and we were just kind of waiting for our call and when it was going to happen. I was down in Awassa, which is a very rural area, around a 6-hour drive from the main city. And one day, the main guy there, Getu, he works for the church. He does a lot of stuff. He called us, and he said to pack our things. We were leaving that very day. He had called us at 10 in the morning, and we left at like 2:30 or 3 from Awassa in a plane back to Addis Ababa. There, we were supposed to leave, we got told on Saturday to go up, and we went up on Saturday back to the main city. We were told we were going to leave that Thursday, but instead what happened is the church chartered the plane and all this stuff happened, and we left on Tuesday with all the missionaries that very same Tuesday, and we flew all over the place until we got back to Salt Lake.
You just picked up missionaries along the way.
Yeah, the church had chartered a plane from Ethiopia Airlines. So it began in Ethiopia with us. We flew down to Johannesburg and picked up the rest of the missionaries there. And then we flew to somewhere in West Africa. I think it was Loma or something like that. From Loma to Washington, D.C., and then from D.C. to Salt Lake. And Salt Lake was the last stop. We were not allowed to leave the plane at any time. So for the entire flight, we were inside the plane.
Wow. That's a story you'll never forget.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting how that worked.
Well, we're getting down to our time limit here, but I guess tell us, how do you feel like you changed from your mission?
I've definitely learned so much on my mission that I would have never learned at home. There's just, I don't know. There's so many things about mission that just like even unconsciously teach you something. And it's very interesting to, to see. I know that like there's a lot of lessons on self-reliability I would have never learned by myself in college. There's a lot of lessons, just about myself I would have never discovered unless I'd gone through something really, really hard, like a mission. There's a lot of different skills, different desires that I never thought that I had, that I just discovered about myself. There's a lot of things that I learned that I probably would have never learned unless I had gone on a mission. So I'm very, very glad that I was able to serve as long as I did. And if they do decide to reassign me, then I know that means that I've got something else to learn about myself, or, there's someone else that needs to learn something from me. So I'll be glad to do that. If not, then I'm going to use the lessons that I learned to further my life now.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down with me for a few minutes. It's been fun to share the returning missionary stories where they can't get out and do it themselves temporarily. But anyway,
thank you.
Thank you. And I think the parade's coming past your house tonight, and that's pretty fun too. So
yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to turn the recording off. So thank you.